Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel and this special Saturday evening, the eve before the series finale of Game of Thrones, our last chance to get in our speculations about what's going to happen in the finale. My name is, of course, John Campea. Welcome to the channel. And you know, season 8 of Game of Thrones has been, I'll say it, spectacular. This has been a spectacular. I don't care who cries about it. I don't care if there are people who don't like it. Totally fair to not like it. Totally fair to love it. Doesn't matter. But I don't care about people who love it more than me. I don't care about people who don't like it. I care about what I think. This season of Game of Thrones has been utterly spectacular. I have loved it. Probably my second favorite season of the series. Now, I say this all the time. I am not a huge Game of Thrones fans. Like again, I say this all the time. I don't know the family lineages of the different houses. I've never read, nor will I ever read the books. I really don't care. But just as a viewer of television, this season has been great. I've been riveted every single episode. I love the directions they're taking. Not everybody does, and that's totally cool. But I do. And anyway, we're going to talk about the final season, this final episode, I should say, of this final season going into it. Now, I think what a lot of people will say, those who loved it have loved season 8 so far, and maybe those who have not, I think we would all agree on one thing, at least most of us would. And I mentioned this on the John Campea Show the other day. Despite the fact that I have really liked what they've done, I think those who love and don't like this season of Game of Thrones would for the most part agree. There's been a sense of a rush to it. There's been a little bit of a rush to this season. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that for whatever indescribable reason, they decided to cut 7 episodes out of the final 2 seasons and do the final 2 seasons as a 7-episode season and a 6-episode season. I will never understand that logic. I will never understand that reasoning. It's completely beyond me, but whatever. It has led us up to here now, the final episode of Game of Thrones ever. So that's what we're going into. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you guys some of my basic predictions. And this is pure speculation, no insider knowledge whatsoever. This is pure fan speculation as much as anything else. I'm going to go into some of my final predictions going into tomorrow. Probably very far-fetched. Maybe 1 or 2 of them will come true. Probably most of them won't, but it doesn't matter. And then I want to go to you guys and hear what your thoughts going into this final episode are. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think will not happen? All that kind of stuff. So here's my ultimate big prediction, all right? I believe Bran, and I'm not coming up with these. Other people have said these theories before too. These are just happen to be the ones that I agree with. I think Bran is going to take over the dragon. He's going to warg into the dragon, and as the dragon, he's going to kill Dany. Because I think Dany's going to try to kill Jon. She's going to do all that kind of stuff. Bran will save the day, warging into the dragon, and the dragon will kill Dany. I think ultimately Jon Snow does not want the throne. He passes it on to the true legitimate heir to the throne, which is Gendry. Gendry is the true legitimate heir to the throne. The Targaryen line is a deposed line. They have no legitimate claim to the throne. They've been deposed by Robert Baratheon. Robert Baratheon's true son is Gendry, and Gendry, as everybody was complaining, but Gendry can't because a bastard can't be on the throne. Jon Snow was named king in the north, but whatever. Remember, the queen has legitimized Gendry, giving him the Baratheon name. He is a legitimate heir to the throne now. So I think Bran wargs into the dragon kills Dany. Jon doesn't want the throne. He wants to go live with the wildlings north of the wall. That's where he wants to go spend the rest of his life. And he hands the throne over to Gendry. And I think Arya will rule by his side. And they will be on the Iron Throne at the end of the season. That's my prediction. That's where I think it's going. Now, there's a bunch of other little things along the way. Okay, well, what happens with the Unsullied? You know, what happens to Grey Worm? What happens to those? I'm not really sure yet how that all goes. But I think like once the queen dies, their allegiance dies. So I don't think their allegiance goes beyond death. So once she dies, that goes on. So anyway, those are kind of what I think they're going to do. Now, they don't have to do what I think they're going to do in order for me to enjoy it. I'm just looking forward to seeing whatever they're going to do. There are some people who think Sansa is going to end up on the throne. There's a good argument to be made for that, except she doesn't actually have any lineage to it. And she's more concerned about Winterfell. She's more concerned about home. I think she wants to stay in Winterfell. I think she wants to be the Lady of Winterfell, probably Warden of the North. So I think she's going to end up there. Arya, I'm guessing, will rule with Gendry, but at the same time, she may want to go do her own thing. So I don't know. Maybe she goes back to her training. Who knows where that's going to go. Brienne of Tarth, don't know what's going to happen with her in this. Your guess is as good as mine. Does she show up in King's Landing? If so, whose side is she on? I don't know. Lots of crazy things can happen there. I don't think we're going to see Bronn again. Some people were wondering if he might pop back up looking to claim what he was promised, but there's nobody left to give it to him. So I don't know if that's going to be the case. Tyrion could be in trouble because Dany's in a particularly vengeful mood. She may now find out that Tyrion set her brother free. If that happens, Tyrion could be in trouble. Now, there was a time where I thought maybe Tyrion would end up on the Iron Throne. Now I'm not even sure he's going to be alive at the end of this episode. I think Tyrion may die this episode. Not sure about that, but I don't think he's going to end up on the throne. So there you have it, guys. That's my overall final prediction about where I think this is going to end up. Maybe it'll be close. Maybe it'll be right on the money. Maybe it'll be totally out in left field and won't be anywhere near that. The real thing here is, what do you guys think? And that's really what I want to do tonight, is I want to talk about what do you guys think is going to happen in this final episode of Game of Thrones. It's tomorrow night. This is it, guys. This is our last chance to get in these predictions. So I want to go over now to the live chat. You guys have already been firing in some. Let's just quickly go over there, throw out some notions. Let's see what you guys are saying right now. All right. Jared Vester writes, Game of Thrones Season 8 has been one of my favorites. Mine too. Not my absolute favorite season, but I think it may be my second favorite season so far. Anyway, Game of Thrones Season 8 has been one of my favorites. It had great pace so far. Maybe a little bit too much pace. Maybe a little rush, to be honest with you. But at any rate. But I'm a little bit nervous that the finale will feel rushed. I do too. Seriously. I remember at the end of the last episode, which I loved the last episode. But I remember thinking, you've only got one episode left. Can you really wrap this up in one episode? Again, bringing up my question about why the hell did you only do 6 episodes this season? Makes no sense to me, but whatever. So we'll go into it. We'll see how they manage it. I'm not going to be overly optimistic or overly pessimistic at the same time. I'm going to go in there and see, and let's see. Hopefully they make it something great. All right, Soggy Mini Muffins. What a great name, right? Think Bran gets thrown, but hoping for Jon. I think Jon gets the throne and abdicates it immediately. Could he hand it off to Bran? Well, it is his brother. If the Stark, he's Targaryen, but if he claims the name Stark and he takes the throne for the Stark family, he could abdicate it to his only surviving brother, which is Bran. Could be the case. I don't see it going that way, though. I see him giving it to Gendry, but Bran is definitely a possibility. Remember, Rob was telling me that the Vegas lines right now has Bran as the favorite, which I think is odd, but hey, maybe that's exactly the way it goes. Jared Vester writes, do you think Dany will find out about Tyrion rescuing Jaime? I do, as a matter of fact. If so, the Mad Queen ain't going to be happy about it. No, she is not. And that's why, I almost feel like they could use Tyrion as an explanation point on the whole Dany thing. That if you thought that maybe her burning King's Landing to the ground was just a fluke, put an explanation point on it. She carries through with her vengeance, killing Tyrion. She already killed Varys. Just because he didn't think she was the right person to be queen. Death to you then. What a jerk. Anyway, she already killed Varys. I could totally see that happening. I'm not going to say I think that's what's going to happen, but I totally can see that happening. Topher Rocks writes, I can see Jon killing Dany. Like Wolverine killed Jean in X-Men 3. He loves her, but she's got to go. I'll be surprised if he's not the one to kill her. Oh, I don't know. I just don't know if Jon could do it. Jon is so bound by honor and loyalty. Like, regardless, even if he believes totally that Dany's got to go, which he's got to believe that by now, he pledged his allegiance to her. That to Jon Snow is an important, major, unbreakable thing. Others would look at that and say, you just saw her murder a ton of innocent people. That kills any allegiance you owe her. But that's not the way Jon Snow sees things. John sees things as, I made an oath. Whether I like it or not, that's my oath. That is my honor. I can't do it. That's why I kind of think that she may ultimately turn on John, and Bran will rescue John by warging into the dragon, and the dragon kills her by biting her head off or whatever. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out, though. It'll be interesting to see. All right. James Hoffman writes, pessimist. Dany wins but rules over ashes. Optimist. Jon takes the Iron Throne but gives each house equal representation in new government. Possibly. I mean, that's kind of something that Kaori has been saying on our post-Game of Thrones show, is that she almost believes they're going to institute a republic. And that is definitely a possibility, too. What I do agree with in that, though, too, is that Jon gets the throne but will abdicate it. Now, whether he'll abdicate it to Bran or to Gendry or to Sansa or to a representative of all the houses, who knows? But I think that's where they're going with it. But who knows? Maybe he ends up ruling. Cameron also writes, prediction. Jon kills Dany and refuses the throne. He decides to punish himself and exile by self-exile and lives out the rest of his days as a wildling. Very close to my prediction, Cameron. I kind of believe that as well. I believe he will win the throne and then abdicate it immediately to somebody, and then he will go to live with the wildlings. I think that had a lot to do with his last conversation with Tormund before he left, saying, you know, you are of the North, the real North. And I think that's where Jon may end up. I think he may go back north of the Wall to live out his days there. We'll have to wait and see. Canada Rocks writes, did you notice the director used the same shots last episode as in Battle of the Bastards? But this time Jon was in Ramsay's position and the Golden Company captain was in Jon's position. This echoes the theme of last week's episode that there really are no good guys in war. I hope the ending continues this theme. That is something that Game of Thrones has done beautifully through its entire run. There have been very, very, very few characters that have been purely good or purely bad. You can probably count them on one hand. Out of all the characters through all the seasons of Game of Thrones, you can probably count on one hand characters that were just good or just bad. Ramsay, pure bad. Joffrey, pure bad. Jon Snow, pure good. Ned Stark, pure good. I think it kind of ends there. Maybe Robb Stark's mom? Maybe? But all of them, they've always had shades of gray. And I think in the midst of war, one of the lessons of it is there's never any true heroes in war. And that has been a theme. And let's see if they kind of continue that through on this one here. All right. Andrew Odette writes, I bet Bran wargs into Drogon and kills Dany's Yep, I can totally see that. Now, I've only been thinking that he wargs into the dragon and then kills Dany, but killing Dany's armies, I don't know. I think Dany's armies, their loyalty to her dies when she dies. So I don't know if he needs to kill her armies. I don't know if they need to kill Dany's armies. All I think he needs to do is kill Dany, and I agree. I think Bran takes over the dragon kills Dany. Probably wrong, but I'm guessing that's what they're going to do. And it'll be awesome if they do it. It'll be fine if they don't. I Almost Won writes, John, to be honest with you, I really don't know who ends up on the throne. Dan and Dave have something up their sleeve. I can't put my finger on it. Oh, I agree. And that is something that we've got to keep in mind. There could be a complete wild card at play here. There could be a complete wild card at play. And I still believe that wild card is Gendry. But, I mean, who knows? Who the hell knows? I mean, seriously, I would not put it past them that Dany, somebody else said it a little bit earlier that, okay, here's a pessimistic prediction. Dany ends up on the throne. Hey, listen, I wouldn't put it past them. It's very possible this show ends with the Mad Queen back on the throne. That the madness of the Targaryens. I still love that line Varys said. It said that when a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. I love that line. I love that imagery. And I think you're right, Almost One. I think there is a strong possibility here that out of whatever we guess, there could be a total wild card that comes in that maybe is something that is a thread that began in season 1, maybe a total wild card that was a thread that was set in season 3, and then we haven't even thought about it for 5 years, and then it comes back and we're like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Like, they could totally have one of those in their mind. Barring that, I'm still going with the whole Gendry ends up on the throne thing. But you're right, it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. I Almost Won writes, John doesn't want to be king. I'll volunteer. Yeah, okay. You don't want to be on the Iron Throne? I'll be on the Iron Throne. There we go. Gershon Monroy writes, I guess with a show of this magnitude, you're never going to please everyone with a resounding finale. Oh, no. No, make no mistake about that. Because here's the thing. Everybody has in their own heads their own script about how this game should, or how this show should end. And inevitably, the show will not end the way a lot of people think it will or think it should, and therefore they aren't going to be happy. That's human nature. That's the nature of us as film and television fans, right? We kind of do that to ourselves. So no, there is no way this ending, no matter what they do, is going to satisfy everybody. There's no way. No way. If Dany ends up getting killed, there are people who are going to bitch and moan about it. If Dany doesn't end up getting killed, there are going to be people who bitch and moan about it. If Jon ends up on the throne, there are going to be people who bitch and moan about it. If Jon doesn't end up on the throne, there are going to be people who bitch about it. There's no way. There is simply no scenario for 100% win across the board. But I think we all could have acknowledged that and known that in season 4. I think in season 4 we could say, hey, when this thing eventually ends, you think it's going to make everybody happy? No way. No way. Too many people get too invested in these characters and all that kind of stuff. There's just no way that the ending of this thing is going to please everybody. There's just no way. All we can hope for is that they end it strong, make a strong story. I don't give a crap if it's the ending I think they should have or not. I don't give a crap if it's the ending I'm predicting or not. Just give me a strong ending. And then I'll be happy. Not everybody will, but that is human nature. That's all of us. Me, you, all of us. It's kind of in our nature. And part of the fun of being a fan, I guess. All right. T. Nguyen writes, Dany was poisoned by Varys to be more aggressive. I don't think so, because that goes against Varys' thing. Look, if Varys had to trick or force or manipulate Dany into being bad, then that totally contradicts his fear that she would be bad, right? If he didn't have to manipulate her into being bad, then he has no basis for fear in the first place. So I don't think that makes sense for his character. So I'm going to guess no. I'm thinking he was maybe plotting on killing her, but I don't think, and I don't know for sure that he was, but I don't think that's the case. All right. Gerson Monroy writes, by the way, I think Sansa would make a perfect queen. Tyrion's now a marked man for his betrayal. Oh yeah, Tyrion's in trouble. And you know, honestly, at this point, other than Jon, I don't think there's anybody in Westeros who would be better on the throne than Sansa. I think Sansa, like, not just because of her character, but because of what her character has been forged into over the course of all the seasons. She has seen the highest heights, the political manipulations. She has seen suffering people. She has seen family loyalty. She has known personal suffering. She has known being a victim. She has known being a victor. She has seen it all. And what this show has forged her into since season 1 till now is very regal. It's very royal. And I think she would make a fantastic queen. I just don't see that happening because I think her heart is in Winterfell. I think that's where her heart is. I think that's who she cares about. I think that's where she wants to be. And I think that's where she's going to be. Let's see. Hold on a second here. I think I missed one. Okay, anyway. Let's move on here. Okay, Justin Webb writes, I agree that the show has been great, but rushed in many ways. But the Vegas odds that Bran will sit on the throne have me scratching my head. Bran is all about history, and Westeros needs a new future. Oh, I agree with your rationale. And I agree with you too. Ever since I heard that the Vegas odds are that Bran ends up on the throne, I'm like, how? Like, I just don't see how, unless they go pure lineage. Jon takes the name Stark and abdicates, therefore the throne, since he has no son, the throne goes to his brother, Bran. Okay, I can see that. But I think passing it to Sansa makes more sense. I think passing it to Gendry makes much more sense, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm with you, Justin. It does leave me scratching my head a little bit. And even, Bran himself said, I mostly live in the past. And like, I'm hardly ever in the present. I mostly live in the past. I mean, I just don't see him, number one, wanting to be king. I've never sensed a thing out of Bran that would make me feel like he even wants to be king. But I mean, who knows? Maybe the Vegas guys have it right. We'll have to wait and see. Eric Grebner writes, Jon puts Gendry on the throne so he can be his Ned. I mean, there's that too. Somebody else brought that up a few days ago. I can't remember who, but somebody brought that up, that we are going to see a mirror image of the Robert and Ned relationship with Gendry on the throne and Jon Snow as the Warden of the North. I think that's totally possible. And then the families get back into their roles that they always enjoyed. So that could totally be it. We'll have to wait and see. SC Edge 77 writes, Tyrion and Sansa will reign. Jon Snow gets a Frodo ending. Yeah, I really do think there's a possibility here that Jon Snow gets that Frodo ending. Instead of sailing off into the west, he goes back north of the Wall to live with the wildlings. I think he found his life there, and I think there's a very good chance that that's where he ends up. As far as Tyrion and Sansa reigning, I mean, that's hard to call. Maybe after the death of Dany, the Unsullied turn to her right hand and say, well, then you're king. And goes to Tyrion. Tyrion says, I need Sansa to rule with me or else this isn't going to work. That's possible. I mean, I suppose. Again, I think Gendry's the more logical choice, but that is totally a possibility. Eric Grebner writes, boring, but this show is all parent like child. I don't see that at all. I don't see that at all, like parent like child. The only time that's really been seen is with the fact that the Targaryen madness. I mean, there's been that. But, you look at the Stark kids, they're all very different. They're all very different, but they were all raised really well. So, and Gendry's nothing like Robert Baratheon in any way. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I see that. I just don't think so. Ben Rayner writes, Sir Anthony with magic nanotech armor is going to come and save his ancestors, the Starks, from Dany the Jerk. There you go. Tony Stark, with his somehow a human being can wield an infinity gauntlet, is going to show up and save everybody. That's a good idea. Rashiel P. writes, over under 70% Dany dies. I'll take the over. It's not 100%. Make no mistake. It is not 100%. But I will take the over on 70. I'll take the over on 70. Santez Henderson writes, Jon, it's over, Dany. I have the high ground. Dany, you underestimate my rage. Jon, don't try it. It's a little bit of Star Wars in there. A little bit of Star Wars. It's over, Dany. I have the high ground. Oh my God. If they actually said that in this episode, I think I would both be outrageously entertained and completely disgusted all at the same time. Okay. Bobo Vasquez writes, I called Sansa and Tyrion to take the throne. I think we can scratch Tyrion at this point. My Hail Mary passes, Gendry will take the throne. I'm with you on that. And again, I am totally afraid for Tyrion in this last episode. I think she is all about fear now. She's all about punishing those who have not obeyed her. Which she's always been. She's always been that way. She's just dressed it up to look pretty. But Dany has always in this show been, do exactly as I say or suffer the consequences. That's always been her. I mean, the self-indulgent, selfish little jerk, even when Jon Snow came, look, there's this army of the night coming, and we need to fight together or we're all going to die. Oh, that's interesting, Jon Snow. Interesting. Tell you what, I'll only help if you bend the knee to me. It's like, what kind of insufferable, selfish jerk are you? I'll only fight to save humanity and fight and save myself and save my own people if you bend the knee. what an insufferable jerk this character has always been. Anyway, but I fear for Tyrion. I think she may find out. And when there was a point when I thought Tyrion was going to end up on the throne, and now I think he's going to end up 6 feet under. I think he ends up dead by the end of this episode. Hope I'm wrong, but we'll find out. Let's see here. I was just on Ashton. Where did Ashton go? Here we go. Ashton writes, John kills Dany first few minutes. Really? You think it's going to happen really quick? Fast forward 5 years. Fat John is sad. Time travel to collect the dragon eggs. Boom. Multiple timelines. I love it. Love it. Perfect. It makes about as much sense as it did in Endgame. Muse Tack Reviews writes, John destroys the Iron Throne with dragon. Maybe. I mean, that could be. A couple of people have been predicting that he sets up some sort of republic or, you know, a council of leadership by representation of all the major houses. And maybe he just ends up burning the throne and melting the throne. Maybe he's like, before Dany went crazy, this is what she wanted. So I'm going to carry that out. Maybe that's his way of kind of feeling like he's still being loyal. It's an interesting thought. Ryan Lohner writes, Unsullied go back to rule the former slave cities. Yeah, but the Unsullied are just soldiers. They're not rulers. They're not politicians. They're not administrators. I don't know if they can rule. They need to follow somebody. And that's the thing about the Unsullied. Maybe Grey War becomes more than that. I mean, who knows? It's an interesting thought. King of the Hills 34 writes, I don't watch, but I will go out on a limb and say I believe the show might end tomorrow. Ooh, bold. Bold, King of the Hills. Bold prediction. That's going it's going out on a limb. I think you might be right, though. I think the show ends tomorrow. Let's see. Vikram writes in, enjoyed season 8, but I hate the way the Night King story was reduced to just a plot device to weaken Dany's army. He had a big mythos that was built up only to be tossed aside for Dany becoming the Mad Queen, Supreme Lord Snoke. I disagree, Vikram. I remember going into, at the beginning of this season, I said, they're going to end the Nightwalker story earlier in the season. Because the night, and I said before the Battle of Winterfell ever happened, remember, I was saying they're going to end the White Walker story in the earlier episodes. Because the White Walker story is not the story of Game of Thrones. The throne is. The White Walker has been a secondary. The White Walkers have been a secondary story through this whole thing. And they need to wrap that up so then they can just focus on what the show has really been about since the beginning, which is the throne. And ultimately, Jon, Dany, Cersei, the whole bit. Mountain, Hound, whatever. They need to get back to focusing on that. And that can only happen once they settle the Night King storyline. And it ended exactly how it should end. I mean, look, we can all have our opinions about it, and I respect that. From my point of view, since you're asking me, from my point of view, it ended exactly how I thought it should have ended. It ends at the big Battle of Winterfell. If Winterfell falls, the world of men is done. And they get to that final battle. It's a big, long episode, almost a movie-length episode of battle, and it ends with Arya Stark, who they've known for years was going to be their one to take him out. It ends with Arya Stark using that blade to be the one to take down Night King, as orchestrated by Bran. It's exactly what I said at the beginning of the season. This is what's going to happen. It has to happen this way, and that's the way it happened. And I thought it was great. I thought it was absolutely great. I think that's the way that this show is not called The Night King. This show is called Game of Thrones. That's what the majority of the time of this series has always been spent on. The White Walkers and the Night King has always been a sub-genre of that. Much smaller amount of screen time has been dedicated to that storyline as opposed to the grander storyline of the kingdoms. And that's where it needed to end. You couldn't make the resolution, in my opinion, at any rate, you couldn't make the resolution of the White Walkers and the Night King the final episode of the series. That's not the way. I never felt that was the way to do it. So I'm quite satisfied with the way they did that, actually. I am actually really quite satisfied. I wish they shot the Battle of Winterfell in such a way that we could see what the hell was going on during the first half hour. But whatever, I won't go into that whole mess again. But anyway, that's just the way I kind of felt about it, Vikram. But other people feel differently, and that's totally cool. Your opinion is your opinion, and it's no less or more valid than mine, sir. All right. Let's move on here. Rushil P. writes, I am guessing Jon and Grey Worm fight and Jon wins. They do seem to be kind of building up to that. They seem to be foreshadowing that the last couple episodes a little bit, and it's possible. But I got a feeling, I don't know. I think it's going to, I mean, why would they just have, Jon and Grey Worm fight? Grey Worm's got an army. Jon's got the North. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that almost comes down. But you're right, Rashiel. It does feel like they've kind of been suggesting that and foreshadowing that a little bit. Let's see how that works out. I Almost Won writes, Drogo ends up on the throne. Who's going to stop him? And that's the thing. If Drogo was saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm a dragon. How about I rule? I mean, who's going to stop him at that point, really? Ryan Loner writes, Jon gets the throne, and then turns out he was a guest in medieval world. Welcome to the HBO cinematic universe. Yep, it's Westworld. Oh my God. Wait a second. Time out. Can you imagine if they actually did that? Could you imagine? Can you even imagine? Because remember a minute ago, we were talking about how, look, there's no way to end this that's going to make everybody happy. There's just no way to do it. But there is a way to end this to make everybody unhappy. You pull some kind of Dallas, it was all a dream kind of nonsense ending. Where, it ends with, Jon taking the throne, deciding what to do, and then all of a sudden, Jon, wake up. Jon, wake up. And Jon wakes up and he looks 8 years younger, and there's Ned there. You fell asleep, son. What? You sounded like you were having a horrible dream. Oh, Father, I'm so glad you're still alive. I had this terrible dream that you were killed by the Lannisters, and they'd been on this war, and Robert and Mom were killed in a wedding ambush, and oh, what a terrible dream. Can you imagine? Or, as you were saying, turns out a simulator ends, and it was all Jon Snow is just some guy in the modern era who was at Westworld. But instead of in Samurai World or Westworld, he was off in the other corner, medieval world. Oh my God, if you want to see people get really angry, pull that kind of nonsense and we'll see what kind of people say. Oh my God, I just cursed it. Now that's exactly what's going to happen. Let's see. Alex Spur writes, wait a second, I think I missed something. There it is. Alex Spur writes, another red wedding for the finale? I don't think so. Not a red wedding kind of out of nowhere surprise. I mean, God, the Red Wedding might be the greatest thing they've ever done on television. Anyway, I don't think so. I think we're in for some surprises, but I don't think we're going to get something like the Red Wedding. But maybe the very fact that I don't think that's what's going to happen will make it all the more surprising when it does. Canada Rocks writes, when George R. R. Martin told them the rest of the story, Dan and Dave said there were 3 holy shit moments. Hold the door, Shireen burnt at the stake, and one right at the end. I can't wait. Yep, we'll see what George R. R. Martin had in mind. We will find out what the big holy shit moment is going into it that he had in mind. So I'm expecting some surprises. I'm expecting resolutions, and I'm expecting some things out of left field. If this show, holds true to form, we'll wait and see. Jeff Jones writes, speculation. Grey Worm kills Dany. Missandei died because Dany rushed too fast. He is a free man. Ooh. Tell you what, Jeff, I don't agree, but that is a bold-ass prediction, man. That is something I would not see coming. His intensity, I've always just taken at anger at her death. Maybe he's masking some resentment towards Dany. I don't think that's the case. I don't think I agree, but that is a bold-ass prediction. Grey Worm kills Dany. I'll tell you what, that's something out of left field that I wouldn't see coming. Again, I don't think that's what they're going to do, but I think there's some validity to what you just described. Maybe? Okay, let's find out. That's an interesting one, man. Anthony Cullen writes, Jon uses the quantum realm to fix what Dany did. Everyone wants to draw game or Avengers Endgame scenarios here. Alex Spur writes, Bran, I can never be king. I'm the three-eyed raven. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think Bran has any interest in the throne. His full-time gig is being the three-eyed raven, whatever that means. But again, I think he's going to play a pivotal role in this. I think he wargs into the dragon kills Dany. Johnny V just sends in, Sir Davos would be the perfect hand to Gendry. Oh my God, he would. That's a great call. Because remember, Sir Davos was kind of hand to the king anyway, right? I believe it was Robert's brother. So for him to be the hand to Gendry, that's a great call, Johnny. I like that a lot. Santez Henderson writes, Dany is killed by Arya while Grey Worm and Jon fight. Jon wins and finds Dany laying near the throne. Jon stands over and he says, and she says, bend the knee. Woo! I mean, look, a lot of people are still, look, last episode, there's a reason I believe we followed Arya through witnessing firsthand all of the pain and destruction and misery that Dany was causing, particularly when that woman and her daughter that were kind to her end up getting burned to death. She's got a new target. It ain't Cersei anymore, it's Dany. And maybe Arya is the one to take out Dany. That's something we got to consider. I still think it's the dragon, but I think your prediction makes some good sense as well, Santez. Okay, let's see here. Where are we at? Gerson Monroy writes, I believe Dominic Toretto will win the Iron Throne. #family. I'm telling you what, Dominic Toretto is the only Mary Sue in movies, really. He could take out the dragon with a wrench. That's it. He'd fight the dragon, win it, and he sits on the Iron Throne and says, family. There you go. Oh, wow. Zax writes, do you think they will flash forward in time for an epilogue, or will we be left with an open to interpretation ending? You know, I hadn't really thought about it, but somebody brought up something earlier. I kind of hope they do. I don't know that they will, but I kind of hope they do. And by flash forward, I don't mean 100 years, but even just 2 years later. You know, and whether that takes up the last minute of the episode or whether that takes up the last 10 minutes of the episode, I don't know. I kind of hope they do. There's something very satisfying in that type of a story device because it really does make it feel settled at that point. So I hope they do, but I don't know if they will. I'm going to guess they won't, but I'm going to hope that they will because I think that's a good idea. Let's see. Lonnie's Lonization 2020 writes, loved Endgame service to prior MCU films. Might watch Dark World again. Feel same and often rewatch The Wire and Sons of Anarchy. Wouldn't be surprised if I forego rewatching Game of Thrones again, just like Lost. Thoughts? I don't know. Look, it's to each their own, right? I can absolutely, I know I will probably sometime next year go back and rewatch all of Game of Thrones, much like I did with Sons of Anarchy. I will probably go back at some point and rewatch the whole thing again with fresh eyes, knowing what comes later, see if I can pick up some more things. But again, it's all up to your individual experience with the show and how you felt about it. I Almost Won writes, I understand every show must come to an end, but why only 6 episodes? I'm sure it wasn't a money thing, was it? No, couldn't have been. I will never understand why you have the most successful show and most pop culturally dominant show probably in television history, and why you only do 7 episodes for the second final season and only 6 episodes for the final season. I'll never get it. I'll never get it. I understand you don't want it to feel dragged out, but that has not been the issue here. There's clearly enough material there to not drag out 2 full final seasons. I don't get it. I'll never get it. And someone's going to have to explain to me someday, because I think that's, I've always felt for the last couple of years that was a bad decision. And I still do today. I think that was a bad decision, but that's just my opinion. Cinematic Galaxy writes, Sansa or Gendry on the throne is my prediction. 2 very different options, right? Because 2 very different sets of things have to happen for each of those to be there. But I think those are solid calls. Again, I'm going Gendry. I think it's going to be Gendry. All right. Let's see here. Soggy Mini Muffins writes, Arya actually died in King's Landing, and that is what drives Jon to kill Dany. I don't think so. Although, look, if Arya were to die, I think that would have been a clear thing. Like, you don't have Arya maybe die? Like, you have a character like Arya, she dies, and we see her die, and we feel the pain as the audience of her dying. We don't find out about it next week. It's like, oh, wait a minute, what, she died? I don't think they would do that. So it's an interesting theory, Soggy, but I don't think that's the way they're going to go. All right. David Coker writes, Jon will die without Dany knowing. Arya will take Jon's face and get close to... Ooh, Arya takes Jon's face. and gets close to Dany and take her out as Jon. Blue eyes equals Night King. Green eyes equals Dany. There you go. I mean, it's and a lot of people have been referencing that thing. You're going to kill somebody with green eyes. Well, there you go. So that could be. I'll tell you what, David. I hadn't even considered that one. That Jon dies, Arya takes on Jon's face and kills her that way. I hadn't even considered that. I like it. I don't think that's what will happen. I think the other stuff that I talked about will happen, but I like your theory. I do. I think that's really cool. All right. Rochelle P. writes, a true Game of Thrones style ending would be if Dany does end up on the throne and it cuts to black, rolls credits. I would not mind such a tragic ending. So evil. Hey, man, that I would be totally down for that. It's not what I'm predicting, but I'd be totally down for that. It would. Look, they've always said the good guys don't always win, right? Remember they talked about in the earlier seasons. They live in a world where the good guys don't always win. And there's never really truly a victory because there's always a next chapter, even if we don't watch it. So I could totally see a possibility here where Dany ends up on the throne. A tragic Shakespearean kind of ending in a way. I could see it happening. It's not what I think will happen, but yeah, don't cut that one short. Dark Newt writes, if Jon goes back to the wall at end. Yeah, I agree. Jon goes back to the wall. I think he goes north of the wall, live with the wildlings again. I think he gets the throne, abdicates the throne, moves north. I agree with you. Rochelle P. writes, but because of Green Eyes shut thing, Arya may kill Dany. I agree. That's been come up a couple times here. The whole idea that maybe she takes on Jon's face to get close to do it. Maybe she takes on maybe she kills Grey Worm, takes his face, and then gets close to her that way. Oh, because she would never see it coming from Grey Worm. Oh, that's something. That's an idea. All right, Cinematic Galaxy writes, totally agree on Dany always showing flashes of evil early on. Even her good deeds were always serving her own interests. Yes, that's the thing. Even her good deeds have always been with the hidden motivation of advancing her own interests. And again, in this show, whenever anybody has questioned her authority, they usually die. And I agree with you, Cinematic, 100%. And that's why when the big turn happened, it was totally consistent with the character. Absolutely 100 consistent with the character, because that's what we called. We called it. We said that's what was going to happen, and it did. Anyway. Alex Von Gollum writes, final comment of the day. Actually, we've gone a little bit longer than I thought. I thought we'd go about a half hour. We're at about 45 minutes here, but this has been fun. I've enjoyed this, guys. All right. Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, John, do you think Tyrion could play a significant role in the episode? From the episode teaser, Dany's army is huge, so it would be hard to kill her. True, unless an Arya takes on the face or Bran wargs into the dragon. That's why it's going to take something out of the ordinary to do it. I don't think... none of us have talked about the possibility that maybe Tyrion kills her. He's not as honor and oath bound as Jon is. He could just be, hey, look, I sided with the wrong person here. I betrayed Varys and Varys died, and it turns out Varys was right all along. He could be totally overwhelmed with guilt about that and decide to make things right. He's got to kill Dany. Maybe Dany kills him because she finds out about Jaime. I don't know. But, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a straight up Jon with his armies of the north fighting Grey Worm and his armies of Unsullied and whatever Dothraki are still around. I don't think it's going to be that. I think we've had our big battle. I think it's going to be something more subtle. The dragon, Arya, Tyrion, Jon himself, one of them. Or, like somebody just mentioned, maybe Dany ends up on the throne after all. All right, now last one. This one just got slipped in here at the last second. Life's Good writes, do you think the third oh shit moment was Dany burning King's Landing? No, I think it's going to come in the ending. I really do. I think that's going to be the big... Although, again, I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if George R.R. said that's where she's going, because that's what he had set up the whole time. That's what he had set up the whole time. But honestly, for it to be a holy shit moment, I think it's going to be something in the finale. I'm expecting something out of left field in the finale. I don't know what it is, but I'm expecting something. We'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, listen, that will do it for this open discussion about our final predictions for the Game of Thrones series finale that is tomorrow night. Oh my God, Game of Thrones ends tomorrow night. Hey guys, don't forget, tomorrow after Game of Thrones, me, Ann, and Kaori will be doing our final Game of Thrones wrap-up episode. Make sure you come back and join us. After that, it's probably going to be around 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So come on back and join us for that, as predictions will be out the window at that point, because then we'll know what happened. So come on back and join us for that tomorrow night. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Final episode tomorrow. I'm very excited. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name is John Campea, and until tomorrow, bye-bye.